Hey everyone, it's Grandmaster Ben Finegold here with round 3 of the Invitational GM Norm Tournament. I was fortunate to win my first win of the tournament against International Master Raja Panjwani. I drew round 4 against Grandmaster Dennis Boros, but that was a quote-unquote Grandmaster draw. We only played 10 moves. I had the black pieces, and I was worse, so I guess it's good he gave me a draw. I'm not going to show that game, but I'll put it on my blog, but it was only 10 moves long. Anyway, the game that I won, I was very lucky. Basically, it was about equal the whole game. Maybe I was a little better, maybe he was a little better, but probably nothing more than an engine would say 0.1 or 0.2. Pretty drawish. And then we both had less than 3 minutes left and started making mistakes, and I got sort of lucky. Okay, so I played e4. I prepared for c5, d6, and knight f6. Those are the 3 moves that he played. Of course, he played g6. So I wasn't ready for that. I played knight f3, hoping he'd play c5, and he's had that position before, and I looked at it, but he played d6. So I'm already just out of my prep. Okay, d4, he played knight f6, and I tried to do something that wasn't a Pierce or something he would know well. So I played bishop d3 because I know that nobody plays that. Turns out that's the second most common move to knight c3, and Kramnik's played it, so it's not that bad. Okay, bishop g7, I played c3, and the reason I played this with white is that I actually played this position with colors reversed. So I have this position, except normally I'm a tempo down. If my opponent fianchettos with white, like my opponent did here, this is usually the system that I play. So I know how to play it, just usually I'm black when I'm having this position. And, I just play knight d2 castles and just play really solid. My opponent played h6, and I got a little worried that my bishop might get in trouble on the king's side, although bishop h4 is the most common move. I just took. And, okay, white has a really solid game. It's hard for black to get a lot of activity and get an advantage. So I just thought I'd have a solid position and hope that my age and experience would help me outplay my opponent slowly. Although that didn't really happen. I was using a lot of time. I wasn't getting any advantage. And luckily, as the middle game was becoming the end game, my opponent also played slowly, and I actually had a time advantage at some point. Okay, these moves are all very good. The computer in this position wants me to castle. It doesn't like me taking on e6. That's about the only improvement in the game for most of the game the computer suggests. After castles, it says white is a tiny bit better. Okay, but I took. And f takes e6 looks a little crazy because all his pawns are weak. So I took with the bishop. And it's funny, in this position, my opponent played the rather obvious d5, getting rid of his backward d-pawn. Computer doesn't like that. It wants black to play rook e8 and sort of keep the dynamic possibilities of the position open, the half-open e-file. But instead, this, became sort of boring, except his bishop on f6 isn't very good because of my pawn on c3. So I have chances to control the d5 square, and he doesn't really have chances to control d4. Although, as you'll see, as the game went on, that changed. Okay, I played queen a4, and he thought for a long time here. Now, the reason I played queen a4 is I thought if it was his move, he would trade bishops, trade queens, play rook d8, so-called vacuuming the board, and it's just too boring, and I thought it would be a draw. Keeping the queens on, I thought I'd have some winning chances. Okay, a6 is a very good move. Black wants to play b5, and then later b4, attacking my c3 pawn, making his bishop on f6 stronger. Trade. And I realized after I traded that my intention, when I played queen a4, was to play knight e4, bishop g7, rook d1. But I realized before I played knight e4 that rook d1 seems to run into knight d4, which I hadn't seen when I played queen a4. Let me turn the engine on now. Oh, the engine says this is fine for white. Well, actually it says black's better, but okay, then it's playable. But okay, it still prefers black slightly. And of course, I didn't see knight d4 when I played queen a4 in this position. I thought, a6, take, here, rook d1, and I keep attacking pieces. But knight d4, which has a discovered attack on my knight on e4, because my queen was defending my knight, and now it's not. And also, I don't want him to play knight takes f3 check and mess up my kingside pawns. So I didn't want him to do that. So I just played rook e1. This is actually the computer move, defending my knight. And my hope, once again I say hope, was rook e8, which didn't happen, of course. Rook d1, knight d4 with the same idea. Now white's winning. I have knight f6 check, and I have a discovered attack on his rook. And actually, during the game, since my opponent thought a long time here, I was actually looking at the other rook to e8. And the idea is, if I play the same way, knight to d4, knight f6. Now, rook takes rook is not check. Okay, so this is a little different. Although, maybe it's not different. Maybe I can still do this. My queen defends my rook. Yeah, this should be okay. This should be good for white. Let me see what my engine says. It says white is slightly better. Okay, so yeah, I was looking at rook a8 also. Anyway, he thought a long time. In fact, on the moves a6 in this position, a6 on move 14, and here when he played the move b5, he took like a 35 minute time advantage and just got rid of it. He was thinking 10, 15 minutes a move, so I sort of caught up on time. Okay, b5's a good move. Queen a3 attacking his c5 pawn. b4, queen back to a4. Now, his queen is sort of tied down to his knight, so if I can play rook to d1 or c4, he might be in a little trouble. So he played an excellent move, knight e5, trading pieces, and this is just equal. You can say you like white or black, that's like your preference, but computer just says everything's equal here, all zeros, nobody's better. These moves are all good. And computer actually plays most of these moves if you let it think a while. And we traded and traded and traded and traded and traded and traded. And I thought this would be a draw, but I thought black was slightly better if he played bishop to d4. That's what I was expecting. And now we both had less than 5 minutes. So probably, practically speaking, white's better because it's hard to stop a knight from attacking you when you have a minute on your clock. The knight has so many jumping possibilities. The bishop, I know where the bishop's going. And I'm only really afraid if the bishop is on this diagonal, the a7, g1 diagonal, and f2. I don't really care if his bishop goes anywhere else. Can't really attack anything. So I was really expecting bishop d4. But okay, what he did was fine. He played king g7. But now I wasn't worried at all because it's really hard for him to do anything, and this should just be a draw. Okay, but we're in time trouble. Time trouble makes fools of us all. And here he blundered and played the move h5 and offered me a draw. Now when I say blundered, his move is actually fine, but he didn't see my next move winning a pawn. Luckily, it doesn't matter for him. He should stop, knight e5 by playing something like, let's say, bishop to d6, for example. But some move where knight e5 isn't very strong. Okay, so knight e5, declining his draw, threatening f7. There's no defense to f7. And here, even though he had less than a minute, he found the only drawing move. Otherwise, he's really lost. He played king f6. And this prevents me from playing queen takes f7 because my knight's hanging. So I took with the knight. And once again, he played the best move, bishop to b2, threatening bishop d4. And once he plays bishop d4, I have trouble defending my f-pawn. Also, where's my knight going? My knight f7 is sort of trapped. Okay, so I played queen b3, which is fine. Again, he played... Here he played a mistake, and he's almost lost after this, maybe lost. Bishop d4 draws comfortably. I have to defend my f-pawn, so let's say queen f3 check. King g7, and now he's threatening bishop takes f2, and if I take it, he trades queens and takes my knight, and he's also threatening queen takes a2. So the computer just says this is completely equal. Okay, so bishop d4 would have maintained equality for him, but okay, we both had seconds left. King g7, queen b7, defending this diagonal so he can't check me, and threatening lots of discovered checks. He threatened queen f2. Knight d6 is the best move, but luckily I repeated moves first, so I wouldn't lose on time. Discovered check, check, and now I played knight d6 check. Okay, he played king h6, which is fine. I should play queen f7 with a big advantage. I played queen f3, and now he blundered. Well, he's still much worse here, but he played bishop takes f2. That actually loses his queen, but I didn't see it. I can check. King g5 loses the queen to knight e4 check, and I just keep checking. Let's see. Well, now I'm confused because it wasn't king h6. I'm sorry. And I only have about 20 seconds left in the video. Always funny. Okay, king h6. All right, knight f7 check is winning immediately. Now he's actually getting checkmated. Okay, and the way I win his queen is if he goes to the back rank, I keep checking him until I have a knight discovered check winning his queen. And now knight checks win his queen. Okay, he played queen takes a2, and I mated him into queen f8, and he resigned because knight g5 mate.